Would I be the a-hole if I just tell everyone the truth about what is going on, even though it would ruin my husband's image? This is non-US. Okay, so my husband has been dealing with some major issues. We have not yet figured out what it is. But he has been dealing with certain delusions. For example, it all started 6 months ago when he was convinced he had caught me cheating because he found a document saying so on my laptop. When I arrived home and he tried looking for it to show me, he obviously couldn't find it. He is going to therapy, but as of right now, we are technically separated and living in different rooms. It's just because this keeps happening. A certain insecurity eats itself into my husband, and he becomes convinced that it's the truth. He either dreams proof or he just convinces himself that anything is proof. I don't know what he does with the therapist, but I honestly don't see it getting better. Last week, he was mad at our daughter, 15, because she didn't want him to drive her to prom and take pictures with her. When I went to ask her, she said that that was not true. She had talked to her dad about what she would like to do when she graduates in 2 years. Her father just got really mad at the perceived slight. The problem is that he keeps talking to people about the issues. I was already wondering why so many mutuals stopped responding to me. But apparently, they all think I am an awful human being and terrible spouse. I just want to tell people what is going on. Also so they are aware that my husband is basically lying to them and for them to tell me delusions that he might be having that I don't know. But at the very beginning of his therapy, he begged me not to tell anyone because people would think he is crazy. My sister said that it would also be an a-hole thing to do that would basically feed into his delusions. I just feel like I am done. Am I the a-hole? Edit. We already did a brain scan MRI, and nothing was found.
Is this therapist also a psychiatrist? I'm by no means an expert, but it sounds like therapy isn't what he needs, and maybe the therapist actually believes what he is saying as well. I think a more aggressive approach is needed.
He doesn't trust me, so he doesn't tell me. I know he gets professional help because he introduced us. But as far as I know, it's a therapist, not a psychiatrist.
So I'm assuming these are real actual delusions while giving this advice. First and foremost, if he hasn't yet, he has to see a neurologist to rule out any physical causes, i.e. brain tumor, and second, can you have a therapy session with him and his therapist? Tell them what is going on with your friends and family, and come up with a mutual solution. With the therapist there, they can help your husband see how this is affecting everyone. In my opinion, this is really messy and could potentially devolve into a dangerous situation. It's not fair to anyone involved. I think, if they are real delusions, I would need to tell those very close to us, only ones I knew loved him and would protect him. Ideally with him by my side, while I told them. And a big one. I would need to speak with him and his therapist about it first. This needs a professional, delicate hand to guide it. You need help with this too. You, at the very least, need someone, a friend or family member you can trust, to lean on, but you should also have a professional to talk to and help you cope with this. Not the a-hole. Just needs to be handled in an extremely delicate way, with much discernment, professional guidance, and love as humanly possible.
Obviously, I am not in the medical field, but I can't describe them as anything else, mainly because we have not done any of the things he convinced himself of. For example, he was convinced our oldest daughter, 19, was pregnant because she said no to sushi. She was just not in the mood for raw fish. So my husband obviously became obsessed with the idea that our daughter was pregnant. He would go to full rants saying how dare she, we gave her everything, etc.
He is very mentally unwell. You need to start planning how to get away. This is getting worse and is going to put you and the kids in danger.
Not the a-hole. Keeping a secret is pushing your support network away because he's telling them his delusions. In order to take care of him, you need a functioning support network. Perhaps you could talk to him about a few select friends you trust not to gossip and explain that he is asking you to carry the weight of his constant accusations alone and that it isn't possible for you. While I agree telling everyone isn't a good path, you need trusted friends you can talk to. That is an incredibly hard situation to live in.
No. She needs to speak up, now. The time for asking for permission has passed once he started to slander her and her children to anybody who is willing to listen. I repeat, he is slandering her left and right, and not just her, but also their children. He is saying horrible things about them. He is berating his 19-year-old daughter for an imagined pregnancy. Can you imagine what that would feel like? OP needs to get the truth out now, so she can salvage some of those relationships, because she will need help. Lots of help. And she needs to act fast, before everybody gets turned against them. He refuses to share info about his treatment. It is suspicious in itself, but with the systematic ruination of OP's and children's reputations? No. The innocent parties need to be protected first.
Am I the a-hole for saying, just don't come, to my stepmom when she and my dad told me she didn't want to attend my high school graduation with my mom? Background: my parents divorced when I, 18 male, was 3 because my dad was having an affair with my stepmom. My mom and stepmom were work rivals and had a strong dislike for each other even before the affair. There has always been speculation that this is why my stepmom willingly became the other woman, because she disliked my mom. I was aware of this, and not because of my parents, but because of drama that would kick off with my dad's side of the family, and I was present for some of my dad's relative speculations about this. My parents did not get along after the affair, and tensions were high whenever my mom and stepmom were in the same room. My stepmom had 3 pregnancies that ended in miscarriage. The first 2 were, I guess, typical normal miscarriages, but the third one caused my stepmom a lot of medical issues, and that led to her being infertile. So she and my dad never got to have a living child together. After the 3rd miscarriage, my stepmom wanted me around because she wanted to feel like a parent, and she wanted to know she would still have me. She and my dad asked my mom if they could extend their time with me, and my mom laughed in her face and told her she didn't care what she had been through and she would not let me be used as a band-aid. My stepmom argued that she deserved compassion for what she was going through, and it would be good for me to get that little extra attention and love since I wasn't going to have siblings ever. My mom told her she'd never have compassion for her and didn't feel sorry for her at all. She told her she didn't deserve to be a mom after taking part in the end of my stability within my family. She did blame my dad too, but that has never been focused on as much by my dad and stepmom or his family. After that, my mom and stepmom were never in the same place together. They had third parties take care of exchanges of me until I was old enough to hop out of a car and into the home I was returning to. Once they realized I knew details of what happened, my dad and stepmom were vocal about mom being cruel, hurtful to my stepmom, and that was why they weren't ever in the same room together. A few times I picked up on their desire for me to hate my mom for them, but I don't. I try to stay neutral, which my mom encourages, but if I have to pick, like with this, I'm #Team Mom all the way. I'm graduating from high school in a couple of months, and my dad and stepmom brought up that my stepmom doesn't feel like she should be around my mom and does not want to be there with my mom. They told me they feel it would be best if I make it clear to mom that she can't be there. I told them my mom will be there. Then my stepmom told me she can't be in the same room as her after what she did. So I said, just don't come. I told her I wasn't going to beg her to be there. I wanted my mom there, and they weren't going to stop me. They asked me how I could say that knowing how mom treated my stepmom, and they asked me to be more compassionate. Am I the a-hole?
Not the a-hole, Jesus, move away as soon as you can. I'm surprised you haven't asked to stay with your mom full-time at some point. Where was your stepmom's compassion when she broke apart your family? I'm #Team Mom too. Your mom deserved way better, and so did you.
I live with my mom now. This started when I was 17, though I do see my dad and stepmom because my mom encourages me not to do anything on her behalf. But at this point, it's more about me.
And this is how you know you have a great mother. Even though she has animosity with your father and stepmother, she's encouraging you stay neutral as well as for you to continue to see them, because you should have a relationship with your father. Your stepmother can go kick rocks in trying to manipulate your feelings against your mother. And your father sucks for going along with it. Also not the a-hole, because if stepmom doesn't want to be in the same room, so be it, don't come. Wait until a wedding fiasco. She seems like she'll be a nightmare.
Not the a-hole for saying it, but I think it's time you stop being neutral. Your stepmom sounds awful. If I were you and this woman was the cause of my family breaking apart and hurting my mother, I would hate her. If it was me, I would have said, where was the compassion for my mother when you had an affair with her husband? Where was the compassion for me when you broke up my family? The only reason you want anything to do with me is because you can't have children of your own. I bet if you could, you would have tried to push me out of my father's life. Let me make it very clear to you. You are not my mother, you will never be my mother, and if you keep trying to turn me against my mother, I will go no contact. Just because my father is blind to how toxic you are, doesn't mean I am.
This, I would add that you are now an adult and the court does not dictate your relationship with your father. Your mother will be at all your major adult milestones, whether they like it or not. So they can decide now to behave, and accept that, or not, because the first time they make a scene they will no longer be invited to any future event. And then leave so they can't argue with you. Not the a-hole.
What do you think of these stories? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories.